Hi, I'm Nate Flax.
I'm Noah Longworth McGuire.
And this is Talking Lion.
Talking Lion is a podcast focused on artist-to-artist conversations.
We're primarily artists, a duo called Sleeping Lion. And throughout our career as songwriters and producers, we've had the opportunity to work with so many incredible rising artists.
Talking Lion is about hitting record on the conversations we've had with our musical friends and collaborators to get a glimpse into what their life's been like and where it's going.
A few reminders before we start.
Firstly, we now have a Patreon for fans of the show to show their support and help keep the show going.
As a Patreon subscriber, not only will you earn rewards, but you'll also gain exclusive access to a chat room in our Discord server.
Here you can talk with us and even suggest questions for our guests.
Go to patreon.com/talkinglion to subscribe.
We appreciate your support.
As we mentioned, we also have a Discord server that's become a sort of community hub for Sleeping Lion and Talking Lion. We're very active on there and very eager to talk to you about who you are on the show and how you feel about the new episodes, as well as just talking about life.
So yeah, come through and you can talk with us. You can make some new friends, share your art, and share your memes.
Go to sleepinglionmusic.com/discord to join our server.
We hope to see you there.
Lastly, our face is on a shirt. We have shirts now for Talking Lion with our faces on them. If you want to wear us on your shirt, buy a shirt. It helps support the show and it shows your friends that you like Sleeping Lion and Talking Lion.
You can find these shirts on our website, sleepinglionmusic.com/store. Pro tip, Patreon supporters of the honorary Lion tier or higher will get a free shirt.
Now back to the show.
We recorded this episode with our new friend, Abhi The Nomad.
Though we had heard of Abhi through his collaborations with our mutual friends, this was the first time we got a chance to connect and talk.
We recorded this following the release of his new album, Abhi vs. the Universe, which featured Talking Lion alumni such as Charlie Curtis Beard and Johan Lenox.
A wordsmith, gamer, and man of the world, Abhi the Nomad has infused his unique perspective into all of his songs and collaborations. It's really great to finally get to know him in this episode. So,
without further ado,
I'm Abhi the Nomad, and this is Talking Lion.
well, hey.
What's good? How are you guys?
Nice to meet you, man. We're good.
Yeah, I'm good. I slept for way too long today. I woke up at 6 and then went back to sleep at 9 to 2. It was bad.
I appreciated your text this morning because I was like, you're like, yeah, I'm having a bit of a late start. And I'm like, I am too, man.
Dude.
I am too.
It's just one of those mornings where no amount of caffeine can resurrect your sort of just soul. You're just deprived of energy.
I attempted today. Actually, the podcast is sponsored by a coffee called New Wave, and it's good as far as the anxiety goes. I definitely have just been drinking too much in the last 24 because I had it last night to finish some work and this morning.
Wow.
And
you say last night, coffee last night?
Yeah, I was editing a different podcast and I was up pretty late with that.
Oh my God.
So yeah,
I could never. I'd be up till 5. I drink primarily yerba mates, which I went from coffee. I actually have a Keurig back there, and I have a bunch of K-cups and stuff. But I used to drink 2 cups of coffee a day and get my day going. But I severely underestimated, looking back, how much it would make me shit. I think people don't understand how much you shit when you drink 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day. So I just drink yerba mate now, and it's great as far as my digestive system goes. It's like drinking juice.
No more morning shits.
No more violent morning shits.
Come on, man. That's half the fun.
That's how you know. That's how you know it's.
That's how you know it's working.
Yeah, I don't like to wake up and just exhume all of the last week's meals in one go.
I mean, I have digestive issues, and when I went to a gastro, he was like, "Have you thought about cutting out coffee?" And I'm just like, "And let it win, and let it win."
There have been a couple days this week that I've forgotten to drink coffee and then just slept the day away. I mean, why am I so tired? I'm right, because I'm addicted to caffeine.
Right.
I can't go a day without caffeine, or my body just shuts down completely.
I mean, at least that's what happens to you. For me, my body is in a low state of gravity, and I forget that I love anybody.
Right.
Everybody is a target.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get pretty violent without caffeine. So yeah, late start to the morning, but feeling great now. But I don't know what the rest of the day holds for me. What about you guys?
What does the rest of the day hold for us? I'm probably gonna wind up doing some more work after this. We have a friend and podcast alumni, actually two, London Mars and Charlotte Sands. They're playing emo night tonight, though. By the time this comes out, it will have been in the past, Listenerland, but I'm sure it's gonna be awesome. And yeah, my friend's visiting from New York, so I might wind up seeing them after the show. So I think I'm in for another late one today.
Let's go. That's
burning the midnight oil.
That sounds like a good time, to be honest.
It's nice to see folks. It's been a while since I've gotten to see folks.
Yeah,
so it's just yeah. What about you? What's on the docket?
I was supposed to go watch Dune with the homies.
Nice.
And unfortunately, I guess the premiere got kicked back because of the James Bond movie. And my friend texted me, I never thought I'd be cucked by James Bond, but here we are. So our plans got canceled. So I'm currently I'm planning on, I get a new PC in today to edit so that I can edit more videos quicker and stuff. So I'm waiting for that delivery. And I'm also going to keep playing some games for the rest of the day. I have some, housekeeping stuff to do in between, some emails, nothing too intense. So it's a pretty chill day. So I think that's why I took that 4-hour nap in the morning.
I did a risky thing, which is I went to lie down at 2:15. Like we started this
right before the episode
at 2:30, but I was like, yeah, I mean, if I just lie down at 2:15 and close my eyes for a moment,
your brain is such a liar.
Such a liar.
The brain is such a fraud, dude.
There was a moment where I was really like, oh yeah, this will be fine. And then I had a full on panic, like, oh, I'm about to sleep through this interview. So I'm glad we're all
I've made that mistake.
I'm glad we're all
times.
Here despite the circumstances, against all odds.
Against all odds.
We made it. Shout out Phil Collins.
Yeah.
It's the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Beautiful song.
I forget that Dune 2021 is out, and so every time somebody's like, yeah, I'm gonna go see Dune, my brain needs to process that it's not the David Lynch movie from the 80s.
Right. It's just having a comeback.
I feel I'm happy that they made it again, because for starters, I love Dave Bautista in anything and everything. I think he's just such a cute big teddy bear. And so
Drax the Destroyer.
Yeah, I love Drax and everything he's done. And also, I'm a huge fan of well done sci-fi movies, so I'm excited to see how this one turns out. I think sci-fi had a relatively bad rap for what felt like a decade, and suddenly, because of superhero movies, there's an upsell in quality sci-fi. And so when quality sci-fi comes out, I always invest money to go see it.
Yeah, I'm a huge sci-fi nerd. I'm very obsessed with time travel movies, but I have a very specific and low bar. My only viral TikTok, if you will, is me ranting about how good the time travel in Prisoner of Azkaban is.
Oh wow. I haven't had that thought before. It has been 10 years since I've seen that or something.
Oh, it's worth the rewatch. Especially, I would argue that Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is a sci-fi movie. The rest
are fantasy.
The rest are fantasy.
That sounds like a viral TikTok. That sounds like a viral TikTok.
Well, because I don't like the Back to the Future style of time travel.
No, I don't like the campy time travel.
The Kennedy.
I said campy.
Oh, I thought you said Kennedy. I'm just like, oh yeah, the entire genre of trying to stop the Kennedy assassination.
A surprisingly rich genre.
The entire premise of the season 2 of the Umbrella Academy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, that's
a good show too.
That is a good show that I disagree with the time travel mechanics of.
I mean, you're probably right.
A changing timeline.
It has what I would say is not the worst, but then the middle tier type of time travel, which is branching timelines, which the Marvel films have.
Right.
They do.
The multiverse, whatever.
Yeah,
and I'm okay. But I prefer my time travel Prisoner of Azkaban.
Neat and clean. One timeline, bootstraps, paradox, and all.
Yeah.
Love that. And you know what's so interesting is looking back on those movies, Prisoner of Azkaban was my favorite book. But my favorite movie has to be the one with the huge competition. Which one is it? Goblet of Fire?
Goblet of Fire. That was really fun.
That's got to be my favorite movie just because of the world building and it really felt when I was watching that that I was in the movie at the time. And that was one of the few Harry Potter movies where I really felt like I was, except for the first one, obviously.
Well, I think it was just around that time was really the crux of phenomenal CGI too. Like I think that like when CGI really started to get good was around like the third, fourth, fifth, like Harry Potter
like
movie.
that dragon.
Like, oh yeah, like all of that stuff was
that was crazy.
I think around the same time was like Dead Man's Chest, and I just think about like the CGI in the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff that's so good. I don't know if you've ever watched the Netflix show Dark. It's a German show.
So my wife was like obsessed with it for a while. So I caught like glimpses of it here and there, but she had started watching it, and by the time she told me about it, she was already like 7 episodes deep. So I never,
It's worth it, and it's got like fixed point time travel. Like it's got like, you can't really fuck with like the time travel.
I've never seen someone so passionate about time travel in movies. I love this.
It's like my very specific.
It is literally the hill you will die on.
Yeah,
like
that's a cool hill to
You
die
would get
on.
in a bar fight over this.
I will.
If someone defended Back to the Future in a bar, you would punch them in the face.
If I went back to the past and met somebody who was defending like the time machine,
like H.G. Wells.
H.G. Wells, the books. I went back to the past. I would be in a duel. I would duel them.
Yeah,
duel them on the street corner. Pistols at dawn.
So speaking of which, like, what did y'all think about Tenet? I loved it, and I felt that the online sort of hate for it was really uncalled for. I don't know. I like went in knowing what to expect for some reason, and just without presumptions, I walked out loving it.
I saw a tweet that was like the other day, which was like, just saw Tenet. No volume, over the shoulder of the guy 2 rows ahead of me on the airplane.
I saw that tweet.
And let me just say, Christopher Nolan, you've done it again.
Yeah, such a good tweet.
I thought it was interesting. Like I thought, like obviously there was some really, really great, smart, high concept stuff. I thought that like, as I have an issue with some of Nolan's stuff, that like the mechanics of it and like the spectacle of it kind of got in the way of like just a basic story and like
totally
good characters.
I agree.
But I also watched it like in a drive-in theater on like my first date with my girlfriend. So and it was a double feature with Synchronic, which is like an indie sci-fi with Anthony Mackie that like the CGI doesn't hold up. And I think by that point, it was the second movie I watched that night. It was really, really late. I was on a first date and very, very nervous. And it was played through an FM speaker.
Yeah.
Like it was played on the FM radio. And I was kind of like checked out.
Yeah. I mean,
so maybe it's worth a new watch on an airplane.
I almost watched it on my most recent plane flight. I was like, this is probably the only time I'm ever going to have the resources and willpower to watch Tenet at the moment, because I'm not going to see it in the theater at this point.
Yeah, I think you should go watch it if you haven't seen it.
Okay.
I simply like just how insane like of a director he is, as far as like the lengths he'll go to like express a feeling. Even if like I don't even care like about that it has no plot. I'm fully aware that there's almost no point to the movie. And
no, he makes impressive movies.
He does,
spectacular, like literally spectacular movies.
I would see the shit out of a Christopher Nolan Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Think about it.
That makes my head hurt, but I would watch.
Yeah, I would watch that. It would be better than the other ones. I think that he has a knack to capture dramatic, like super over the top dramatic, like scenes without it being cheesy or corny. And it's that I think is like the hook to all of his shit is like he can do like Michael Bay level like explosive shit and have it feel like you're in it instead of have it just feel like it's Hollywood. And I think that's what I like about each of his scenes. It's like when they're like fighting in Tenet and like one of the teams is running forward, the other one's fighting in reverse. Like when I saw that, I was like, how the fuck did they film this? Like just the shit they went through to like make that.
Credit where it's due. If I am to die on the hill that I plan to die on, the time travel in Interstellar is great.
It holds up.
Yeah, it's great.
It's exactly what I want.
Yeah, that's true.
On a somewhat related note, what would you say is like a great airplane movie? Not a movie that you are watching on your airplane journey, but that like if somebody's watching it in front of you, that's what you're doing on that flight, whether you like it or not.
Oh yeah, that happened to me recently with Spider-Man: Far From Home. Someone was watching Spider-Man, which I've already seen, so I kind of just got to relive all the fun beats of it, watching it over someone's shoulder. I was like, yeah, this is a good plane movie. I mean, it's a great theatrical movie too, but like especially as a second viewing on mute, watching it occasionally in little bursts over the course of 2 hours, I'm like, it holds up.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, that was good. I remember that.
What about you?
Fucking, I don't. It could be anything animated. Honestly, Incredibles, Cars 2. Like I remember someone was watching Cars 2 in front of me. I was like, man, not that bad. Honestly.
For what it's worth, I think that one of the worst movies that has ever come out in the last like decade is Wonder Woman 84. And there was one person watching like in front of me. I just wanted to tell them like it's not worth it. Like, can I like I don't want to like intercept your life or I don't want to assume I know you, person, but I could save you. And I feel like a bystander.
You can't save everyone.
And I decided to hold my tongue and not say anything. And I still had to watch. It was also visually an eyesore over this person's shoulder. And then the person next to them, as the movie was ending, started.
Oh my God.
Started Wonder Woman 84.
Different strokes for different folks. I like the first Wonder Woman movie.
As I say, different names for different planes, you know?
This is true.
Yeah, I heard the first Wonder Woman movie was like good.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It was just like the boss fight was a CGI slop fest, but aside from that, the rest of it was great. And I enjoyed it. I'm not the biggest Chris Pine fan per se, as like a romantic love interest or even as a main character. I don't love him. But I think the rest of it was great. The fight scenes were really well choreographed, which is like my biggest I'm a stickler for in superhero movies.
As we were saying before the podcast started, I think what's so nice about us like meeting now is that in a lot of ways I've like known of you and we've had like tangential encounters, but we've never talked like face to face. You've collaborated with podcast alumni and friends of ours like Axel Mansor and Charlie Curtis Beard and Johan Lenox. And it's just really, I think I even like covered you in a blog once back when I was blog writing. Like, it's just really nice to like, to meet you.
Yeah, it's nice to finally link. What a crazy series of coincidences. It's a small world.
I think it speaks to you and to them and everybody. Like, all the people I've named are so community oriented. I think that all of us have been lucky enough to be parts of the communities that they've built, and then have brought them into our world as well. You know, like for us, we have the podcast. Like for you, like your record is so collaborative. Like I think that when you meet people who are so devoted to community like that, you just wind up in the same house, so to speak. You know,
this is true. Yeah, this is true.
I want to turn the clock back a little bit, though. First, want to ask, where in the world are you, Mr. Nomad? Mm-hmm. And then secondly, where in the world you started?
So the most interesting parts of my life were probably in between both of the questions you asked me. But currently, I'm in Austin, Texas, and I dropped out the womb in Chennai, which is South India, which is a city in South India. So I'm 100% Indian. I was born in India, and currently I'm in Austin, Texas.
I mean, that's awesome. So you guys have a lot you've seen more of the world than me, is all I'll say. But are you nomadic? Does that name?
My whole family was for a while. They still are. I'm not as much because I moved out of home. But after I was born, about 4 years after I was born, my dad he finally joined the Indian Foreign Service, which is like for diplomats and and then there's like obviously the Indian like military who also travel here and there, kind of like United States. So as a diplomatic family, every 3 to 4 years, you get posted in a different country and you work under the ambassador or as the ambassador for that country, representing India. And I mean, in that country representing India. So after I was 4, we moved to Beijing for 4 years. And then we moved to Hong Kong after that for 4 years. And then we moved to India for 6 months for some reason. And then we moved back to Beijing for 4 years. Then we moved back to India for like 10 months. Then we moved to the Fiji Islands for 4 years. Then I went back to India again for like 5 months or something like that. Then I came to California for college, and this is when I branched off from my family. They've still been moving around. And then after...
Where'd you go to college?
California Lutheran University. It's really just like a random college in a small town, but they had really good scholarships for international students. Then I applied for a work visa to stay in the United States, got denied, and right before I graduated, that's when I met my wife. So we were dating, and I got denied the work visa, so then I had to leave the United States after 5 years of being there. So I then moved to France for a year, and then applied for another student visa, and I was studying French in France. And when I came back, me and my wife at the time, girlfriend, moved to Austin together at the same time. This is 3 years ago. And then I applied for a talent visa about 6 months into living into Austin, got it. So then we started settling in over here. That is ending or has ended round about this year. And so in 2020, I proposed to her and we got engaged. And then at the end of 2020, we got married deep in coronavirus when we did like a Zoom wedding. So now I'm like here pretty much, and we just applied for a marriage visa.
I love that.
Very
I love
fun.
that.
So we've been together for like 8 or 9 years. So pretty crazy. A lot of the meat of my narrative is between my birth and Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
I gotta ask, how did you guys meet?
We've been married for about a year. We met in college through a mutual friend who is, we're still friends with, and was one of my best friends. We used to play, Super Smash Bros. Melee in the dorm rooms together all the time. And I met her through him, and we met and never talked for like a year. And then we hung out once, and then it went from there.
I love that. That's awesome. I only have one important follow-up question, which is, who do you main in Melee?
In Melee, Falco.
Nice.
On the new one, Samus.
Like Zero Suit or regular?
Regular.
Nice.
Regular and dark.
I'm a young Link person.
Oof. Yeah. That's
or adult Link for crowd control.
For crowd control. Nice. For the up with the up B. Yeah.
No, it's actually I like throwing the bombs around and just kind of doing the misdirection.
That's so trolly, but I respect it. Whatever gets you the W.
We're both pretty video game nerded out here.
Are you? What do you guys play?
Yeah. So I started playing Overwatch March of 2020. And then I actually just got Bloodborne, and I've never played a Souls-like before. And I literally was just like texting my brother. I'm like, is this supposed to be like this hard?
When did you just get it?
Like a week ago.
Okay, yeah. It is supposed to be that hard, and it doesn't get better. In fact, it gets way, way, way worse.
I just beat Father Garcion or whatever, and now I feel like a god. Like now I'm like, oh, I'm just really good at this.
The sort of like that's the thing with Souls-like games is they'll literally like deprive you of your ability to believe in yourself. But when you beat a boss or like even a mini boss, you're like, oh my god, thank the Lord. Like when you like I play Sekiro, and Sekiro is just like obnoxiously difficult, and it punishes you for losing, which is like just such a ridiculous concept that I haven't, like, it punishes you after you lose. Like you go in with less shit after you lose. So it's high stakes when you start the game. I don't know why they make games like that, but for some reason, like just the payoff is just so good. So that's why people keep playing it.
And what I do like about Bloodborne is that it does do a good job of letting you breathe like right after you want that break. Mm-hmm. Like it does a really good job of like almost like horror movies where you're like, I can't take it. Like this is too much. And then you get that like, and then it's the morning shot and you're fine.
Moment of
like,
peace. Yeah.
Like right after the moment, like where you're out of your discomfort zone. Like, Bloodborne, you're like, I haven't had a checkpoint in hours. I'm sweating. Yeah. I have 2 health packs, like, and they don't give you the save. And then 10 minutes later, they give you the save.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But then, on the other side, what I really appreciate is that it doesn't let you just kind of mindlessly, casually, like, stroll through it. Like, you could get fucked up by, like, a minor enemy.
Mm-hmm.
I've been replaying the Arkham series just because that's one of my favorite game series. And in my shoulder recovery, I'm just like, I just need like a comfort food video game. Like I just need something that's like familiar. But I have been playing them on hard, and the Arkham games on hard are hard. Like literally any fight. Like, I mean, the Batman games are power fantasy, right? Like you just press square and you win, right? It is not that way when you play these games on hard. Like any encounter could be the end of you. I am losing so embarrassingly much despite being pretty good at these games, because it's just like the difficulty. You can take like 3 hits and then you're out. And then the boss fights in the first game are like absolutely brutal. I was like banging my head against the wall for some of these boss fights for like days. And I'm like, I'm supposed to be Batman, but then when you like any of these like hard games, when you eventually get it, it's like, oh, it's such a good feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've only played Asylum.
I mean, that's arguably the best.
Yeah,
because it's a contained experience.
One. Yeah.
It just gets crazier and crazier as it goes on.
I know you mentioned that like you do Twitch and editing and stuff. Like how long have you been doing that, and what do you usually play on your channel?
I usually play I'm a variety streamer, so I just play whatever I'm playing at the time. Twitch is like a very finicky thing where like, a lot of people will be like, oh, he's an Apex streamer, oh, he's like a Warzone streamer, and like build a following off of that. This is just something I like to do to the side that gives me sort of like my little case of joy, and it's like just for me, and I have like people who watch me. So currently I play a lot of Apex, and I've been playing Apex for about 2 months or something right now. So I'm not really that good, and I usually get put in like these lobbies with people who are just absolute dog shit. So it's like kind of fun for me right now, because I just came off of like a year bender of Warzone, and Warzone is like the worst game and made by the worst company probably. Terrible company, dog shit game. So I'm not playing that anymore, but I play a lot of Apex, and I've been playing the new game that came out, Deathloop, which I highly recommend.
Oh man,
it's so good. I didn't think it would be good, but it's really good.
It looks great, and obviously it does have a that sort of roguelike vibe to it.
And you like time travel.
And time travel.
It's a really cool concept. If you're not aware of what it is, it's literally just like a loop of one day that you play.
Well, and that everybody experiences. It's not just like Edge of Tomorrow, right?
But you and a select few others remember what happened. So only you and like a few other NPCs will remember what happened. And it tells you that. So you can, at the end of every day, you wake up again and you don't have anything you had the day before, but there is this material you can pick up while you're exploring the world and while you like go around killing people, called residuum, which allows you to infuse like gear that you have that day to bring it with you forever. So then you have it forever. And then you can pick up like powers and shit. I don't know if you played Dishonored, but it's a lot like Dishonored.
It's by the same company as Dishonored, right?
Yeah, Arcane, yeah. So yeah, it's fucking dope, and it's really cool. And honestly, the NPCs are kind of dim. They're like kind of stupid. So it's hilarious the type of shit you can pull off. You can be in a boss fight and just like melee spam them to death, and it's hilarious. It's super fun.
For me, I like, as much as I like online games, like I think that like my limit is like Sea of Thieves and like Overwatch. Like I think that like I need something where
I played some Sea of Thieves too. It's fun.
Oh, Sea of Thieves is really special. Speaking of Pirates of the Caribbean, but I just think I need something where like I can like stop playing because, or like that I hit like some sort of objective mark and then I'm done.
Yeah.
Or like a single player game. Cause I just like, I could convince myself to play something for 8 hours. And I think that until I'm the kind of person who can't do that, I need something that has more discipline baked into it. That's my thing,
Makes a lot of sense. I agree with that.
One of the reasons why we do what we do is because we are capable of doing things for 8 hours. We make tunes,
Yeah. I mean, the goalpost, is never ending with online multiplayer. It just keeps extending unless you're ranked number 1 in the fucking world.
And even then you have to keep that title.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a full-time job at that point.
Yeah.
Coming for the crown.
Right.
And when you 100% a single player campaign, like it feels so good. I'm the same way too. Like I enjoy multiplayer because I get to play with people, and I play with fans in my Discord and stuff. But my favorite game of all time is probably like if I had to pick, would have to be like Doom 2016 and like the old Doom games too. Like I just love Doom. I'm like obsessed with Doom. I'm literally getting a custom Doom Slayer helmet rug shipped in this week.
Incredible.
Yeah, so I'm like obsessed with Doom, and I love Doom. So I like Doom likes and FPS, single player games, or third person shooter games where you can just 100% the campaign and be satisfied.
But I think honestly, like growing up with video games was so important to like our ability to stomach the industry in a lot of ways. Similar to what we were saying about like Souls and Batman, is just like so much of what's built into video games is losing.
Yeah.
And losing for I tried my best and I still failed, or losing because the team doesn't work, or losing because like you did something stupid. And just accepting all of those things. Like I think I saw a tweet once, which was just like, how old were you when you were booed off stage in Guitar Hero for trying your best?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, that's rough.
But that's the thing, is like, I think it kind of teaches you to be like, okay with that, like dynamic.
Okay with that, yeah.
Of just like playing again.
I've had a couple nights where, like broken a controller, maybe. Here and there, throwing the mouse at the wall. I play mouse and keyboard on most of these games, so I have a nice mouse and a nice keyboard, so I'm like very cautious about it. But sometimes when I lose, I'm at the top of my volume.
I've been okay with the rage. I am a lot more like passive aggressive, and I think the first time my girlfriend heard me go on comms, she was like, "I have never seen like I'm mean on comms." I'm like,
I've heard you from the other room. I'm like, wow, he's really digging into that person.
Yeah, I'm like, you can't make a single fucking healing shot with Ana, and you're still gonna be Ana. Like, you're gonna just ruin it for us. Like, that's what you're deciding to do today. Like, you decided to wake up and be garbage. And I'm not a mean person, but I am on comms. I'm just the most toxic team member when we're really like in the shit of it.
It's so hard not to be like, even when I'm playing like something Apex is way more chill. People don't yell at each other, like kind of like with Call of Duty. Like, Call of Duty is a shit fest, but people don't yell at each other on Apex as much. But I'll be in Discord, like general voice chat with like, and everyone will be hanging out. Like all my fans will be hanging out. They'll be like playing Jackbox or something, and I'll just be playing Apex, and then they'll all just be like talking about life or some shit, and then they'll just hear dog shit, dog shit, dog shit. And there's me at the top of my lungs just fucking screaming. And yeah, sometimes it just has to be done. I have to get it out of my system. I can't leave it in there.
Well, and that's the thing. I think it is just getting it out of your system. Like, I think that today I went to get coffee, and there was a gigantic like Ram truck. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like the truck that's like 8 feet high and
like a little too big for
70
humans.
feet wide. And it was parked it's small little like parking lot, and it was parked in like a compact spot, blocking like how you get around this parking lot, and it was parked halfway on the divider. So it was as if like, you have the two white lines. The white line was running between this truck, and then and I didn't know who it was, and I couldn't say anything. And then we were driving back, and it's a like a red light. And out of nowhere, there's a Jeep that just zooms, like goes out of the lane into oncoming traffic, like shoots up, like goes through the red light, makes the right turn, and is gone, into the night. And you can't say anything and you can't do anything. And then you come home and you put on Overwatch. Garbage! Garbage! Garbage!
That's the way to do it. Yeah, let it all out.
Stopping the podcast to shout out one of our sponsors, The Truffles. Noah, you like to cook.
I do like to cook.
You're actually very good at cooking.
I'd say I'm decent.
But I think that the thing about cooking that you have taught me is that flavor is everything.
Truly.
You got to bring in little flavors that you wouldn't expect. And one of my favorite flavors is the taste of truffles.
A great flavor.
But we are so lucky to have the Truffles as a sponsor for Talking Lion. Founded by Jimmy Coons and based in Long Island City, Queens, the Truffles creates artfully handcrafted truffle products of the highest quality and flavor.
While their truffles are imported from the countrysides of Italy, France, and Spain, chain, they proudly source many of their base ingredients locally from small farms and artisanal producers.
They offer a variety of truffle products, from truffle oil and truffle butter to truffle salami and honey to even truffle hot sauce.
I love truffle hot sauce.
They've also recently launched cheesesteaks by the Truffleists, so keep an eye out for pop-ups in your area. So bring the taste of truffle into your life. You can use the code LionPod15 for 15% off your order through October 31st.
Now back to the show.
When did you evolve from Abhi the person to Abhi the Nomad? When did you begin your musical journey?
I always thought I wanted to like fit in and like in high school and stuff like that. So I would, say and do very, very like relatable things and have very relatable opinions publicly just because other people would maybe think they were cool. But then, moving to college and stuff, I realized that I just naturally don't fit in because I don't have the same I don't have the same values or the same mindset as a lot of people. I don't have a home. I don't really like relate to a flag or a culture. Since most of my life, I was brought up in various different countries. I speak like 3 languages. I don't really like relate. Like nothing really means like home. I don't have friends from like elementary school. I don't have like, a hometown, a home neighborhood or any of that shit. So I think coming to accept and realize that and realizing that in college helped me sort of just name myself that. And I may not be nomadic anymore, but I really don't like, I think those values and the way I view the world will stick with me at the core at least. So I'm sticking with the name as far as I'm concerned for now because that's the way I grew up. That's just the way I am. And that name.
Did you start making music in college?
No, I started making music when I was 13.
Oh, I'll do it.
Yeah, it was so bad.
I mean, that's how it has to be. If you're making good music at 13, fuck you. Like,
yeah.
What's your deal?
Yeah, what's your deal? Yeah, so I started like I first got, I don't know if you guys remember, but the first ever Mac laptop was like the iBook. And it was like white and it like flipped out. Well, no, the first ever like modern Mac laptop. The old ones were like had the colored backs, but it was called the iBook G4. And we used to borrow them in school from like the tech lab to like do our homework assignments on. So I would borrow it and I'd notice that like GarageBand was on it. So I'd like start tinkering with that. And eventually at like 16, I was like, I need my own iBook. So my parents got me one and they were convinced that I wasn't going to do anything with it. So they got me like a really shitty like USB mic. So I started making music on that. So I was making remixes up until like 15, 16 on GarageBand. And then I got a USB mic and I was making songs from like 16 to like 17-ish. And then around that time I got Logic Pro for my birthday. And then I got a like an interface and like a mic. And I took that to college.
GarageBand to Logic
pipeline. The GarageBand to Logic pipeline. I know it very well.
Classic pipeline.
That's how Apple does. It's crazy. Like I'm now thinking because your story made me think of like how big a deal it was when I got my first Scarlett. Like that was like, whoa, like I have like an interface now. And now it's just like in a drawer that we use it sometimes because I have an Apollo now. But like, it was like this life-changing thing to like have an interface and be able to record on
digital audio
really
converter?
was.
Yeah, exactly. To not just record on a USB mic. I also got a USB guitar. That was also a huge deal because like I just didn't know how audio worked. I didn't know that like
wild.
You were that you're traditionally supposed to get a regular guitar and then run it through an interface. I was just like, how I probably Googled how to plug guitar into computer and this USB guitar popped up that had built-in digital audio conversion. And it sounded like absolute ass, but it was my first guitar and I still have it and I still love it.
Whatever works, right?
Whatever gets like that's the crazy thing about when you start making music. Like
we also definitely sound like because like we were in that space, we were in that space where like the digital thing was just starting to happen, and like nobody was really sure if it was meant to be for like kids or adults or amateurs or pros, and there wasn't like now it's way more streamlined. Now it's like if you want to do this, you can get Pro Tools for $30 a month,
right?
And rent all these softwares, rent to own or whatever. Like, and you have your iLocks and stuff. But back then it was just like, okay, if I get this piece of hardware and like this thing, we'll be able to put these two things together to make the thing. You got
to respect that GarageBand was like free though.
Yeah, I love that.
Like the fact that it was just on the Mac for us, like bright-eyed kids to play around with is like, I would probably not be the same person if it weren't for that.
I would, yeah, same. I would not be the same person. I probably wouldn't have even started making music. I just thought it was a cool thing to start messing around with.
Yeah, it's like Legos.
Yeah, it's exactly like Legos. Even when I got my first cardioid mic, it was like I think an M audio mic, and I didn't know that you needed phantom power, so I just got it, and just like it wasn't working, and I was like, what? And then I had to get a phantom power box because the interface I had didn't have phantom power in it.
You know, when I first like started, I was making like instrumental stuff because I didn't have a mic and I couldn't afford a mic. And then I was cleaning the garage as like a chore, and I like stumble upon this box of my dad's old audio equipment. And it felt kind of like in the movie when you find like the relic, like there was just like, there was an Indiana Jones moment of me like dusting off a little bit and like squinting, and like light streams in through like the small window of the garage. And it's just like there is like a C414 from the 80s.
That I'm currently talking into.
That's my favorite. Like, that's what I record on when I do final. It's in my closet, the C414.
It's a great mic, and this one has survived 13-year-old Nate not knowing how phantom power works.
It's been through the ringer.
Love that.
I feel like you guys have like similar nomadic stories. Like, whereas like I feel like, you know, for me, I grew up in the same hometown, like this 1 square mile town called Dobbs Ferry, and I was there for 18 years. Then I moved to Boston and came out to LA. I would walk everywhere. My best friends then are my best friends now. Like, it was all very like, you are here, and you are, you know, the vibe of the town is like, you are going to die here.
Wow.
And, you know, and people do.
People do.
And then I meet somebody like Noah who did jump around.
Just because we don't actually know each other. I'm like nomad light. Like, I lived in 2 places. Like, I'm American, but I grew up in Zimbabwe and spent a good chunk of my life in Italy. And my dad did a lot of like moving around.
That's pretty nomadic.
Like more nomadic than your average American. But obviously I had friends like you who were like military or private sector who moved around every 2 years, or like people who worked in the film industry who would move like every year and a half. Yeah, my dad works for the UN.
Nice.
So I have, especially now that my parents have been in Italy they've been in the same apartment for 10 years, which is the longest they've lived anywhere. Like, roots are starting to set in, but they're about to get uprooted because they're moving to California. So like, philosophically, even though I haven't lived in a ton of places, I still have that like global mindset of I was born just into the world instead of being born into one particular place.
Totally. And I think that's really cool. I think that's what makes it cool, is like having friends that have had the opposite experience of that, and then you having that. It's like a cool balance of like ideologies and like trying to compare.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Well, and a lot of like our early friendship was like, I'm just gonna be in your life as long as you want because I'm here. Like, that's just what my friendships were like. It was like, oh, we're all living here. We're all here. We're all just gonna like stay. Like, and there isn't that sort of fraught.
Yeah, for me, it's just like, oh, like, why would I be friends with you? You're gonna leave. Everyone leaves eventually. Everyone or I leave eventually. Yeah, that was a huge thing growing up. I'm sure it was. For you too.
Did you have that experience?
Yeah, totally. People would be like, I mean, like, it would be difficult for me to get into any sort of like committed relationships, whether it was romantic or non-romantic, because I'd be leaving eventually anyways, and I did not really attach myself to anyone. Like, I would jump friend groups all the time, and people would think that people had reservations about that, but it's really just because I felt like everyone should. I thought that everyone was kind of like me, where they just kind of like depended on only themselves and just kind of did their own thing, which is what I've been doing my whole life. Is I've just been doing my own thing. I mean, now I'm married, but even through that, my wife knows that I'm just someone who just does my own thing. It's kind of a solo dolo.
Well, I think it's important, obviously, to find the people who like meet you where you are.
Totally. Like,
even my friends I grew up with are definitely a lot more comfortable in settling than I am.
Yeah.
I have the terrible balance of feeling very flighty, like that I'm always ready to kind of like go, but also, you know, liking comfort, I'm a Souls-like, if you will. I don't know. I just thought you guys had a lot in common.
Yeah,
in
that's
space,
really cool.
you know?
What the fuck is Zimbabwe like?
It's an interesting place. It was politically fraught and stymied by hyperinflation, the likes of which the world has almost never seen.
Isn't it like $1 trillion bills?
Yeah, like literally $1 trillion bills. I mean, now they've just pinned their currency to the US dollar. But when I was living there, my dad would be carrying around duffel bags full of money just because that's how he got paid, was in duffel bags full of money, not for any, like by official, like by the UN. He got
I
paid
would
in duffel
imagine
bags.
like your dad walking with 2 duffel bags full of bills.
Yeah.
Like
That's insane. I didn't know that the currency was inflated like that over there.
Yeah, this is back in like the early 2000s. It
Right.
hit this like crazy period of hyperinflation. And yeah, now I think they just have pinned their currency to the dollar. They just use the dollar. I forget. There was some big economic turnover.
I feel like that shapes you, and
sure.
at least in a way that you learn through experience, whereas a lot of people don't have that privilege of learning through experience.
Yeah, I definitely think it made me a more empathetic and worldly and like a person invested in the world and in the state of the world and in the nuances of the world. I was going to ask what was your experience generally like in Hong Kong and Beijing?
So Beijing is kind of like
we went for like a week. We did.
Did you?
We taught like some classes there and played some shows, and
that's awesome.
Jianbing on the street corner.
Yeah, it seemed like a
Jianbing
cool
is
town.
fantastic. Beijing has, and I will die on this hill. This is my hill to die on. Chinese cuisine is the best cuisine in the world. And mainland Chinese cuisine and Sichuanese cuisine is the best cuisine in China. And I think that for the sole experience of the food, everyone in the world should go. It is beyond me how good it was.
There's a Jianbing hole in my heart.
Oh my God. Every day I wake up and I crave that shit. It's so good. It's so fucking good.
And mind you, like I grew up in New York, so like I also grew up with great American Chinese food. Like I grew up with like the best takeout.
New York, I would say, is like the closest to like great international food in the United States, I would say.
There was a Jianbing truck in
New York.
In New York.
Mm-hmm. They do that shit well. They really bring the people from the shit and put them there, and like they make like the authentic shit in New York. So good. Yeah. So China and Hong Kong were weird racially. Once again, Hong Kong was probably where I experienced the most racism in my entire life, probably. I don't know why that is specifically. I can't speak to the history on it. I do know that they've been trying to secede from, the Democratic People's Republic of China for a while. So I don't understand where that comes from or where it came from when I was younger.
What years were you there?
It was like before I went into like upper middle school. So it must have been like early 2000s, like super early 2000s.
Because wasn't there SARS in Hong Kong around that time?
I lived through that. I can speak on this too, as apparently a pandemic is a brand new thing over here. I've lived through at least 2, bird flu and SARS, and I survived both, and I had to wear masks in school going to elementary school. So it is not, absurd. It is very normal.
That was a thing. Like, this is not new in the world,
It's very much a thing. It's all the shit you do to avoid it spreading. It's very normal that it happened. It has happened throughout human history. And luckily, me and my family survived. There was abysmal rates of people catching that shit and dying during the peak of it. It was so bad. But yeah, some of the best, most shaping years of my life were in China and Hong Kong, and obviously some of the best food. That's when I first played my first, few games, like Mario and DK64 and like Super Smash Bros. 64. It was like all in Hong Kong and shit.
Pausing the podcast to shout out our sponsor, New Wave.
No, I've been drinking coffee my entire life.
As a Roman, same.
As a New Yorker, absolutely.
It's our birthright.
It's our birthright. We came out of the womb drinking coffee.
Fully caffeinated.
And the thing is that we're not getting any younger.
That's true.
And we're not getting any less anxious.
Oh, man, that's true too.
I'll say I have loved coffee my whole life, but lately it hasn't really been agreeing with me.
How so?
Unfortunately, when I drink coffee now, I just start feeling very agitated, very anxious. And I've been looking around for alternatives that don't make my heart just beat out of my chest while I'm in the middle of working. And that's how we stumbled upon New Wave. New Wave's Flow State Coffee is an organic ground coffee meant to lower anxiety, improve brain function, and support creativity. With L-theanine and raw cacao, Flow State Coffee is meant to feel like a cup of hot chocolate or tea while giving the energy of coffee.
And now, through Talking Lion, you can try a couple cups of your own.
If you go to their website, newwave.co, that's N-O-O wave.co, you can use the code BrewingLion for 10% off your first order. We hope you get a creative boost and find your flow state.
Now, back to the show.
I want to ask you about sex and also drugs.
Ooh, I like them both.
You could actually, I could shorten that sentence to sex apostrophe and drugs.
True.
That's a fucking great song.
Thank you.
And it's been stuck in my head all morning.
Thank you.
Tell me about making that song and what inspired it.
Sure. So I don't know what inspired the lyrics. I just know that when I made it, I used it's every instrument in that is played through this keyboard back here. And this won't help audio viewers, but I'm holding up a child-sized keyboard. And I also had a child-sized guitar at the time. I made that song in France. So all of it was recorded in my studio apartment in France with the AKG 214. And it was just kind of a bunch of chords that I put together. And then I had that wah guitar that I recorded through like the mic and then through like a fake wah filter on it. And I just played that melody. I just played the bwomp, 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 bwomp. I played the melody, and the first words that came to my head were sex and drugs. So it's a lot less deeper than people think it is. At the same time, it's not actually about having sex and doing drugs. It's about the way I wrote the verses, at least, is about, not trying to be too cool and fit in, and more so just, accepting yourself. And I feel like, during college and stuff, I went through that phase of like, experimenting a little too much to try to like, have the same experiences as my peers and like trying to go for the same things. Whereas I could have just been myself the whole time.
I love that. I have to note that the first time I listened to it, I thought the opening line was, "I don't need sex and drugs." And I'm like, and for a second I was like, okay, I get it. Cornering the abstinence market. We appreciate a guy getting the bag. Huge market.
Hey, you know what? Whatever gets you the bag, it's a big market still.
It was just really funny because I like literally like looked up the lyrics. I was just like, we're not about to have like a conversation about like the morals of
sex and drugs.
I just was.
Mind you, I enjoy both.
Yeah.
I don't smoke weed anymore, but I did smoke a lot of weed in college. So, I mean, a lot of people would notice like I have a bunch of songs about weed, and those are from past experiences. And people think that I'm like some sort of like raving sort of like sex addict that does a bunch of drugs. Neither of those things are true.
Is there a line in sex and drugs that you like particularly? I'll say I love that you're cucumber cool.
Thank you. I try to be cucumber cool. So my favorite line is probably the features verse is the better verse. My friend Harrison, who did the feature, and his verse I think is far better lyrically. And I think that verse has my favorite lines.
Never seen so many people I didn't like. Never met so many women that weren't my type. Never wanted to wash my hands from all the shakes. I've come to sleep with all the shadows cause my sheets are full of shade now. I mean, I always was the nice guy. I mean, I always played the stooge. I guess I always kept the peace. Why I'm at war inside surface, I'm cucumber cool.
And then he says something about like, never wanted to wash my hands from all the sheets because I sleep with my shadows or something. And it was like super deep and dark. And I thought that line was super fucking cool. And I don't know why he had to go ahead and body me on my own track like that. Kind of fucked up. So fuck that.
Well,
guy.
you know that I'm bag when I heard that Oh My, I got hype, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
We love a good Charlie moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my segue into Abhi versus the Universe. Tell me about making that record, because it's a great record. And what I love about the record is that it is collaborative. You are bending genres, like you can slide into different styles so easily. Like I just love that it's cohesive because it's you, but there's so much flavor that's brought from blending these genres and writing styles and the collaborators you bring in.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think a lot of people don't know that the original, or a lot of my fans don't know that the original track list was actually very different. And we had a previous 3 singles that we released before we even announced this album that were supposed to be on the original track list, but never made it. Because I had made a whole track list of songs for this album specifically, and then we couldn't release it because we didn't have enough content. There wasn't enough time, and coronavirus had just hit. We had all these plans. We had a tour sort of on hold. All that went, down the drain. And then that kind of soured my experience with those other songs that I had ready to go. So I decided to start fresh and start a clean slate and keep some of the original ones, like maybe like 3 of them that were originally there. And so I made, there has to be like around 35 songs made for this album, and only 13 stayed. So these songs are, they stood the test of time over 2 years. And that's what makes it special for me is the test of time is like something that not a lot of us have the privilege of having in this day and age of releasing music. So I'm glad that at least for this album effort, I had time. And even though it was a really difficult time with not being able to do shows or get any feedback on any of this stuff, I had the privilege of kind of looking back at all the music and being like, okay, this is what works. This is what doesn't work. So yeah, that was kind of the process. I think this is the first album where I've let a bunch of other people produce the joints too. When you're talking about collaborative, I really went full collaborative. I mixed most of the joints, and I even had someone else mix one of the songs, and someone else did the mastering, and we hired someone to do the artwork. So it was really collaborative all around. Every effort of the album is collaborative, and the personnel list is much bigger than it has been for me in the past. Different bass players, different, whole horn sections that I had to credit, a violin player. So just such a fantastic way to put an album together with all these different heads being excited about the same thing, I think is a really cool thing to me.
That's awesome. And it shows. I mean, I really think we had a similar experience where we were working on a record right before COVID hit. And then when it hit, we basically took all the songs that weren't going to see the light of day had it not been for it. And so being able to not only have that experience, but then we're back to working on the record and feeling that test of time. I think when you have this weird opportunity to sit with your songs, especially in this culture of get this out, it really shows you how you feel about it when there isn't that looming
totally
threat of oh, you got to put this shit out now or it's over. Mm-hmm. Do you have a particularly favorite song on the record, or a song that sort of embodies that timeline that you had for it?
Sure. I think Circle is my favorite.
With Johan,
yeah. And that's the last track. And a cool thing about that track, which I've only explained in certain instances, is that it's in the same key as the first track. So the album is kind of like a circle. So it circles around, and if you loop the album, it'll play flawlessly front to back, again and again, which I'm not asking anyone to do, but hey, if you want to pay my bills, go for it. Secondly, I think, that song is really captures the essence of me. All of the all of the tracks above it can kind of fit into that one song. It's still got the funk. It's still got a little bit of groove, but it's also very personal. It's the most personal I've gotten on the album, I think. It's the most personal song I've released in a while too. And so that's why that one's my favorite. And it's kind of a journey musically. And, Johan comes in right at the end, and
turning heads and turning corners. Don't know if I felt this uncomfortable before. I just know I'm really living for it. I'll get back with you before too long.
He kills his part. So I love songs that are just rich and don't conform to any sort of, structure.
That's something I really, really appreciate about your music is that it is always messing with expectations, but never in a way that makes the listening experience difficult. And I think that that's a really tough balance to drive. I think you do a really good job with that.
Thank you. It is very difficult. It's not easy.
Pausing the podcast to remind you that we have a Patreon that you can subscribe to if you want to support the show.
If you're enjoying this episode, but you're thinking that you've got a burning question for an artist, or you just want to talk with us, or maybe you just want to mug with our faces, our Patreon's the way to go.
So go to patreon.com/talkinglion to subscribe.
Now back to the show. Abhi, Mr. Nomad, are you ready for the question round?
Let's go. I'm ready.
The first question is the random question. What did you get into trouble for when you were young?
There's many instances. Oh, this one time I corrected my science teacher when I was living in India. In middle, I think it was like early elementary school or something. She said that space was a vacuum. And I said, no, it's not. Because a vacuum wouldn't have anything in it.
Oh, I thought you were going to be like, no, because it's space and a vacuum is a vacuum.
That would have been the funnier answer. But I was a smart ass. So, and lo and behold, I'll have you know, I am still correct. Space is not a vacuum. And so I got in trouble for that. And she sent me to the principal's office. You can't really talk back to the teacher where I'm from. So yeah, that happened. And this one time I almost mooned a bus. This one time, me and my friends set out to moon a public bus in Fiji when I was in high school, and we were stopped by the cops. So we mooned it, and then we drove off, and then the cops stopped us. So that was rough.
That's fun.
I mean, I'll do it.
Stick it to the man. I got in trouble for like not bringing my notebook or like not bringing my binder or just like generally being a bit disorganized or like, and it wasn't even that I was disorganized. Like I would ace every test. I would always, for the most part, do the work. It was just when there were certain teachers who were like, no, it's not enough to do the work or like ace the test. You have to like come prepared every day and like put in like the busy work basically. And I was just like, no, I'm smart. I just take the shortcut. And they're just like, no, you can't take the shortcut. And I would run up against authority in that way. And they would be like, no, you have to do things by the book. And I'd be like, no. And then I would get detention and have to but detention ended up being super fun because the detention teacher was super fun. So it wasn't even punishment. So it just, the lesson never stuck. I was always just like, no, I still get straight A's. So like, you're not going to convince me to like use your system basically. That was my fight in school.
I would read during class. I think that I got in trouble a lot for like reading during class, which is like a really nerdy thing to get in trouble for. But I mean, I also like would curse a lot young. Like I learned swear words really early. And I also, I got picked on a bit growing up and would just kind of like over correct in a way that like didn't, like in retrospect was terrible, but like in the time like made sense. Like I was kind of like picked on by this one girl who was just like very mean all the time. And I just kind of didn't say anything. And then like one time she was saying like, yeah, last night, like the fire department was called because like there was the fire in my kitchen. And I was like, I hope your house burned down. and then I got sent to the principal's office for good reason. Cause like I was like 10 and I said, I hope your house burns down. But it was kind of just like, I was like, I don't fuck with you.
That's kind of hard though. Wish I did shit like that.
I wrote an apology to her in the form of a haiku.
Wow.
That is so thoughtful.
I hope your house, okay, 5 syllables, doesn't burn down now, today. 7 syllables. We could have been friends.
There you go.
There you go. Money.
A good haiku.
All right, next question. What is your phone background?
Oh my God, I just got I'm going to look like such a lame piece of shit. I just got a new phone, so it's just the normal. But on my old phone, it was this really cool drawing of Link from Zelda.
Nice.
Very good.
And then the actual phone background was like a photo from our wedding.
That's I love that.
That's great. Do you have a non-musical hobby?
Yeah, I really like. Fuck, I'm so boring. Trying to think of. I'm just like the most boring person. I really enjoyed like graphic design and drawing. I do that for other people, so it's not really like a job.
Noah does some of that stuff too. Just like
Yeah, graphic design is my passion.
Comic
Like
fans.
actually though, it's like I've done it professionally here and there, but it is like just a thing that I mostly do for fun.
Same, yeah. I used to have a job, and I have an associates in graphic design that I got while I was here in Austin, and I used to work at Austin Community College doing graphic design.
Well, that's cool.
wow.
So it's just something that I love doing.
Very cool.
The next question is probably the most important question you will ever be asked on a podcast. Would
You
be pirate?
are
1000%.
Hell yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
You should see my fucking Sea of
Sea of
Thieves
Thieves.
character. Dude, he's like this 80-year-old man.
You've been training.
I've been training. He's an 80-year-old man with a cat.
I mean, I love that for you.
That's great.
My cat's
Is he? Are you a
name-
legend yet?
No, not at all. My friend is, but I'm not that good at the game, but I'm really good at shooting. So anytime we
It's
get
hard
like,
in that game.
it's harder for sure. The sensitivity is weird.
Well, that was easy. That was,
Yeah.
that's
No further questions. Except for
Yeah.
the next question.
Except for the next one.
Let's go.
Which is, do you have any tattoos?
No, dude. God, I wish I was more interesting. I'm sorry, guys. I was considering getting the, which I might still get. I was considering getting the original 3D Nintendo logo, the N. That's
Oh, that's a really good one.
yeah. So I wanted to get that one, and I wanted to get Yoshi like smoking a joint.
That's awesome.
What was the first concert you ever attended?
The first ever concert I attended was Mos Def and Talib Kweli live
Wow.
in Los Angeles. It was ethereal,
Yeah, that sounds crazy.
godlike experience. Yeah, it was so cool.
Can you recommend our listeners a movie, a book, and a TV show?
Yeah, I can. If you haven't seen it, I'll give you one that you haven't seen and one that you probably haven't seen. If you haven't seen it, I say District 9.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's a
one
good
of my
one.
that's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a weird pick, but it is. And then one that you probably haven't seen that you need to go see, just judging by, people I've talked to, probably Tenet. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's a great watch. And watch it like with, speakers on a TV.
Right. Right.
Not on an airplane.
I'm gonna watch it on my iPhone.
If you have earphones, whatever, TV show I will recommend that I watched again for the second time, that if you haven't seen, you should go see is The League. That's what it is.
Oh,
Yeah,
The League.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I've watched it twice now all the way through, and it's fucking hilarious. I think that's Nick Kroll's best.
Yeah.
People tout Big Mouth. Big Mouth is not half as funny as The League. The League is miles above it.
I've heard good things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And you don't have to, I fucking don't give one shit about sports. And I thought that was interesting. It's about fantasy football. So,
Nice.
book. Fuck, what's it called? I still can't remember what it's called, but it's a fantastic book. I'm going to have to look in my Amazon. Like,
Are you sure it's not Dune?
I wish it was Dune. I wish it was. But then again, the movie is coming out. So you guys should,
Read the book.
you guys should go read the book. I have everything but that one. So in my Amazon order list, I have Children of Time.
Time travel?
I mean, a whole barrage of things. Time travel is a small factor. Adrian Tchaikovsky, and then The Freeze Frame Revolution, which I'm reading right now, which is by Peter Watts.
Appreciate the recommendation.
Yeah.
I like sci-fi books.
I'm with you there.
Do you have a scar with a story?
Yes, I do. And it relates to my album, so this is great. There's a scar actually
great.
over here. It's like a muscle stretch scar from when I was around 17 or 16. I got hit by a taxi cab going around 35 to 40 miles per hour, and I was a pedestrian. It was totally my fault. I ran across the road when I wasn't supposed to. This is a jaywalking incident. I flew like 20 feet in the air, landed, and that experience kind of, and I survived, didn't break any bones, but it did leave me with a bunch of scars. That experience inspired the first song of the album, Extra Life, because I thought I was gonna
Yeah.
die. I thought I was dead actually when I woke up, but then I thought I was gonna die.
There's a green mushroom next to you, and it just said 1 up.
Yeah, 1 up, and I just got back up.
So see, I thought that the license plate of the car said the universe.
That would be crazy. I wish my life was that cool.
You just got hit by the universe. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad that is definitely a scar with a story.
Yeah, that's a crazy story. All right. What are 3 thoughts you have at this very moment?
At this very moment.
A, will FedEx ever deliver on time? B, which is the best flavor of sparkling water? I'm having mixed thoughts right now. Usually it's lime lemon, but recently I had a strawberry mango that was fantastic. They're all just kind of taste the same, but I can tell the difference now. Number 3, how good will Metroid Dread be?
Interesting.
Ooh, okay.
Very excited for that one. I haven't had a good Switch game in 2 years.
I'll do it.
Very fun. Very fun. And lastly, what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to many things. First of all, I got these fucking cassettes made for the album.
Nice.
I've never had, cassettes made of my work. So I'm very excited to sign these and ship them out to people.
It's so nice having like things in tangible form, and they look great.
Yeah.
Like I think that just
Thank you. So I'm very excited for those, and I'm excited for shows next year and, some sort of normalcy in my career.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you if you come to LA and playing out here.
When I come to LA, I always come
When
to
you
LA.
come to LA, we'll party. We'll bring you to the poker table with Charlie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Abhi, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, for chatting with us about like everything. And
It was a pleasure.
You're awesome, and we hope to explore the 7 Seas with you at some point, and look forward to meeting you in person if you're ever in LA. So thank you for facing the universe and also coming on to our podcast.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me.
We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Talking Lion.
We would like to thank New Wave, The Truffleist, and Isotope for their support of Talking Lion.
If you'd like to show your support, ask our guests your questions, talk to us on Discord, and get a shout out at the end of each episode, subscribe to our Patreon over at patreon.com/talkinglion.
Thank you for listening, and see you next time.